Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Hyperion Hub, your meeting place for all things Disney. Now your hosts.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Hyperion Hub. I'm John Alois and I'm joined as always by Sean Degenhart.
Hey John.
And John Redling Schaefer.
Hello there.
Hope you guys are having a good week. We're going to start off with our Disney views. And with that, let's throw it over to Sean Degenhart. Sean.
Yeah, my Disney view this week is taking us to the Pioneer Hall at the Fort Wilderness Resort for one of my favorite things to do whenever we are at Walt Disney World, and that is the Hoop-de-Doo Musical Review. We love it. We attend that at least once every trip that we've made over the past, 10 years or so. Great history, great family-friendly show. It's actually the longest-running dinner show in America. And it premiered June 30th, 1974, there in the Pioneer Hall. And when they were building the Pioneer Hall, they used over 1,200 hand-fitted pine logs from Montana and 70 tons of stone from North Carolina.
Wow.
Yeah, it was created by Larry Billman, and the choreographer was Forrest Baruth. Went through several iterations as they were just kind of workshopping it. And it actually started with the Disney World Fine Arts College Workshop Program. So it kind of workshopped there as they were adding songs in and writing the script. The principal songwriter was Tom Adair, who was the writer for Mickey Mouse Club and also wrote the lyrics for Sleeping Beauty. Much of the score over the past 46 years remains the same, except for... Do you have any guesses what might have changed?
It's been a long time since I've been there. So a couple of weeks ago on the show where I went back to 1985 when I was 11 years old, that's the one and only time I've ever been there. So I don't know what has changed since the opening and where they are today.
John, do you have any other ideas what might have changed?
Honestly, my ears are still ringing from the washboards at the end, so I can't remember much of the show.
So it's the dessert portion. It used to be apple pie that they served, so they sang a song called the Apple Pie Hoedown. And when they changed over to strawberry shortcake, they wrote the Strawberry Shortcake Walk. So pretty much the whole show has remained intact over these last years, except for that. The statistics, they do 2 shows a night. Every night they fry up 900 pounds of fried chicken, 400 pounds of pork ribs, 120 pounds of corn, 400 pounds of potatoes, 30 gallons of baked beans, 15 gallons of strawberries, and 12 gallons of whipped cream. Kind of makes you hungry, doesn't it?
A little bit.
I guess.
So some people describe the show as corny. And the creator brought out this story between Walt and his daughter Diane, that at one point Diane said something was corny. And Walt agreed, but he said, I think there's 140 million people in this country just as corny as I am. So they like the corn. It's a fantastic show. If you've not ever done that, you need to do it while you're down there. It's at Fort Wilderness. As I said, it's a multi-generational appeal. My girls love it. My parents love it. We love it. Fun jokes. It's great to have live musicians. They do a lot of the Stephen Foster folk songs, set in the late 1800s.
It's kind of a throwback to the Golden Horseshoe, isn't it, in a way?
Yes. Yeah. Kind of echoes Golden Horseshoe a little bit. But Disney also incorporates some of their own IP in that. They do all the folk songs, but Davy Crockett is an important part of that show. So it's a great way to just kind of bring, their catalog into the realm of the public domain songs. We love the audience involvement. They really do a lot to bring the audience into the show, whether that's, singing Happy Anniversary or they've got a little rhyme and song for what states people are from. And that's always great. You're always wondering, okay, how are they going to rhyme my state? Birthdays, anniversaries, dancing in the aisles. But our favorite memory is the Davy Crockett skit where they bring up some audience members to participate. And they brought my dad up the last time we were there to participate. And he came out at the very end as Davy's angel. And that's the one that wears the halo with the tutu and the angel wings and kind of blows kisses to the audience. That just cinched the deal with the Hoop-de-Doo musical review for us. So I strongly recommend it if you've never been, and it's an annual tradition for us.
And just another one of those things you can do in Walt Disney World that does not involve theme parks. So, pretty cool. Okay, this week we're changing things up a little and taking a look at an attraction and its history. We're climbing the snowy peaks of Expedition Everest, Legend of the Forbidden Mountain. First, before we begin, it is my favorite roller coaster in Walt Disney World. I assume you guys have both been on this.
Several times.
And this is where I become unpopular. It's not my favorite mountain, but I did see, I can say I was personally able to witness the joy that this ride brings John. I guess it was last summer now, when our families happened to be vacationing at the same time. And I think you almost skipped down to the line when it was time to finally get back on it for that event. So.
I did ride with a few Redling Schaefers. That's a claim to fame. It's also the first time I've ever ridden at night, and it's obviously a different experience, a little more intense at times, for sure.
It is. Last time we went, we did the after hours event, and it was very different from riding it in the daytime.
Very much so. Disney's Animal Kingdom opened in 1998. It had one thrill ride at the time called Countdown to Extinction. Today that's known, of course, as Dinosaur, if you guys didn't know that. As time went on, Disney looked to broaden its appeal of the park, and that meant adding thrills. Cali River Rapids opened a year later, but they also wanted a roller coaster. But of course, because this is Disney, it had to be filled with a rich story. They brought in the man who built the park, Joe Rohde, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with this fellow. Mm-hmm. He led the project. Inspired by the success of their mountains, Space, Big Thunder, and Splash, and most notably, for this story anyway, the Matterhorn in Disneyland, they settled on a snow-capped mountain and decided to place it in the Asia section of the park, borrowing the idea of a creature living within, as is the case with the Matterhorn. The abominable snowman is there. They added an extra layer of story and excitement. So the Yeti was included in scripting and concepting early. Now, have you guys ever been on the Matterhorn, which kind of inspires this attraction?
Yes.
I have not.
It's a much different experience. Obviously, it goes way back. I think it's the first steel roller coaster, at least in the United States. It's a bumpy ride these days, but like I said, it has kind of a monster in the middle of it, and that's what they were looking for when they included the Yeti. Back when the park was conceived, mythical creatures were part of the plan. The first line on the dedication plaque actually reads, "Welcome to the world of animals, real, ancient, and imagined." But there were no such beasts, so the Yeti allowed Rohde to explore that world. Planning began in 2000, and it took 6 years before the attraction was built and opened. It cost $100 million and was listed as the most expensive roller coaster according to the Guinness Book of World Records. I did find places on the web that claim Hagrid's Magical Creatures motorbike adventure at Universal's Islands of Adventure is now the most expensive ever built at $300 million, but I didn't see anywhere that Universal was claiming that. They didn't admit to that anyway. Disney did, of course, a tremendous amount of research. Rohde and his team traveled to the Himalayas. They brought back 8,000 props that are now featured in the attraction. It's the tallest of the Disney mountains in the world at 199.5 feet tall. If it were a half foot taller, Disney would have to include a red blinking light, and of course that would ruin the whole story.
And what's strange about that is it's then 10 foot taller than the castle. Because the castle is 189 feet.
Maybe regulations back in 71 were a little different. I don't know.
Were a little bit different, yeah.
Or they just couldn't measure.
No, I do remember that on one of the backstage tours I did, the host did talk about that. And at the time when the castle was built, regulations were it was a little bit shorter, so they couldn't go as high.
Expedition Everest opened on April 7th, 2006, and it is the first Disney coaster to move backwards and forwards. It can reach speeds of 50 miles per hour. There is nearly a mile of track, and the total running time is 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Riders must be 44 inches tall. As for the Yeti, he is 25 feet tall, 20,000 pounds, and is the largest and most complex audio animatronic ever built. The Witch.
And he hasn't worked in 100 years.
The Witch in the Great Movie Ride always impressed me. And then when I saw this, everything changed. I think I did see it once in A mode, and that's what we're about to talk about. In A mode, he's amazing, moving and swiping at guests. But a couple of months after the attraction opened, he stopped working, as Sean alluded to. Supposedly, his frame split, and when he moves, he causes more damage. Disney's never revealed the true problem, but he doesn't work like he used to. Now he's in B mode, where he's pretty much stationary with a strobe light on him, causing fans to call him Disco Yeti. He's been in A mode a few times, but not in over a decade, I don't think. And there are many rumors as to why Disney hasn't fixed the figure. He's too embedded into the attraction. It would be too expensive, and it would take too long to fix.
But I did hear an interview, and I don't know if it was with Joe Rohde or somebody else, but they were saying that the way it is built into the attraction, it would require almost the extraction of the whole top of the mountain to get to him, to fix it, to do what they want it to do, and that was just going to be way too costly and time-consuming.
Yeah.
Well, and that makes sense, too, because if you figure the two biggest lines at Animal Kingdom between this and now, I guess, your rides over in Pandora, they can't shut down one of their main attractions for any extended period. If they can get away with Disco Yeti, so be it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but he's still pretty impressive. I mean, I think people want the best experience, obviously, but the way he is right now is still amazing. He's huge when you fly underneath him. According to D23, I'm going to read from their webpage. The adventure begins in Asia as guests join the Expedition Everest team and embark on a trek through Anandapur. The trail leads visitors to the village of Zong, which means Fortress of Chasm. In the early years, the Royal Anandapur Tea Company shipped its tea by train from Zong through the Forbidden Mountain Pass, but the railroad was closed after a series of mysterious accidents, rumored to be from the hand of the Yeti. Today, the village of Zong is thriving and has moved beyond its tragic past, largely thanks to the efforts of local entrepreneurs. In spite of the local opposition, the Himalayan Escapes Tours and Expeditions Company has partially refurbished the railway and now offers transportation for adventurers through the base camp at Mount Everest. And now there's going to be some spoilers as we talk about your experience. Looking to tour the Himalayas and possibly catch a glimpse of the famed Yeti who protects the mountain, you pass prayer flags and walk through the village to get to the trains. There are warning signs and dedication markers featuring the Yeti along the way. Supposedly, he guards the mountain, but that's just an old wives' tale. You move toward Norbu and Bob's booking office or the Himalayan Escapes Travel Agency to obtain permits, and then it's off to Tashi's General Store and Bar for needed supplies for the journey. You move through an old tea warehouse that features a Yeti museum run by Professor Pumba Dorje, a conservation biologist who believes the Yeti is real. There are artifacts on display along with stories about the Yeti and adventurers who have gotten to the summit. Finally, you board the rail service trains, which were once used to transport tea but have since been refurbished to carry passengers to the foot of Mount Everest and the Forbidden Mountain. On board, you glide past tea farms before beginning your climb to the top of the mountain. You pass shrines the natives have built dedicated to the Yeti. When you reach the peak, a confused feeling, or is that terror, fills you as you encounter destroyed train tracks. The train stops, and just as you wonder how you'll get back down the mountain, you feel gravity pull you backwards. The vehicles pick up speed as you race through the caves of the mountain. You come to a safe stop, but just as you get your bearings on your surroundings, you are stunned to see on the cavernous wall light peek through. But in that light is the shadow of a creature. He's ripping up the train tracks. The beast is protecting his mountain. The only thought is to escape. Your train begins to roll once again. You pick up speed, twisting through the mountain, and just when you think you're safe, you see with your own eyes the monster who wants to be left alone, the Yeti. He takes a final swipe at you as you pass under his enormous arm and out of the mountain and back into safer surroundings. Are you brave enough to try it again?
I hate it.
Do you really? What don't you like about it? What is an appealing thing?
Backwards.
And that's my favorite part. Oh my gosh.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Oh.
And I will say, yeah, the backwards is my least favorite part, but I still enjoy it.
Nope. Get me on Big Thunder every day, all the time.
You start floating backwards, and I lose my breath. Obviously, I lose my stomach, but it is unlike any experience in Walt Disney World to me, or any other place that I've been to. And that's what I love about it. It gives you something that you can't receive somewhere else. And I laugh all the way down the backside of the mountain.
Well, I have photographic evidence from the photo pass of my family that you were the giddiest person in that vehicle during that ride that I saw.
And my daughter despises it. My son loves it. I don't think my daughter likes going backwards. Everything else she likes about it. My wife loves it. So it's one of those attractions. You either love it or you hate it. But I think it was my niece's first attraction, like first roller coaster, major roller coaster. And it kind of spoiled the rest of their trip, if I remember correctly. Because if you're not prepared for it, and who's prepared for that, it can ruin, the rest of roller coaster experience for you, unfortunately.
Well, yeah. I mean, that is, I think, maybe you would think otherwise, but the most intense ride at Disney World, if you start there, you're right. Going to Slinky Dog, or even worse, Barnstormer, you're going to go, wait a minute, what happened? Yeah.
But isn't it just
First time we went on it, my oldest did not do it. She was scared to death of it. But our second oldest, and they're 3 years apart, I don't remember how old they were the first time we went to Animal Kingdom. But it took her, it was like the next trip before our oldest was finally able to suck it up enough to actually go on it. She just pretended, she loves Marvel. And so she just convinced herself, this is the Bifrost. You're traveling on the Bifrost. This is just the Bifrost. So that was her way of getting through it. But she loves it now. And we got her the little Mickey and Yeti ornament to put on the tree. The thing that I was kind of took me out of the story the first time I wrote it, but now I look forward to it, is when you're at the very top, the very peak, and you're hanging out up there with the broken track, and you look around and you see hair ribbons and rubber bands all on the sides. I'm like, well, what's that doing up here? That should have been covered by snow. But now that's what I look forward to. Okay, how many hair bands are up here now?
When you think about roller coasters you've been on in other parks, and I grew up near Chicago, so Great America was up there, but wherever you've gone, there are some thrilling attractions from Six Flags parks, but they don't have the story. And that's what appeals to me about Expedition Everest more than any other attraction. And I think, and don't quote me on this, but I do think it is the last non-IP large attraction built by Disney in the American parks, at least. And that's something that I wish they'd revisit and go back to original storytelling, but it is phenomenal, and I love the attraction.
Well, and the whole queue is so thorough in setting up the story, and just the artifacts and the signage And, I mean, it's fantastic. And you are fully ready after you've stood in line for 45 minutes, or if you did Fast Pass for 5 minutes. I mean, you're immersed in that by the time you get on the train.
I think that's some of the beauty of Animal Kingdom in and of itself. I mean, you head into Asia, if you cross the bridge, just getting there, and you've got one of your most photogenic opportunities or spots there with the river. At night, it's even cooler if the water's still. I mean, the whole experience of being in that area really supports that theming too.
Sources used in researching this episode include allears.net, d23.com, machinedesign.com, the Theme Park History YouTube channel, touringplans.com, and WDW Radio. That's going to do it for this week. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what your favorite attractions are, and we'd love to talk about it on the show. Email us at podcast@thehyperionhub.com. Wherever you're listening to us, we ask you to please subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and tell a friend. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review us so more people can find us. That'll do it. Have a great week, everybody.
See you real soon.
We're glad you could join us. We'd love to hear from you. You can email or send us a recorded audio message at podcast@thehyperionhub.com. Find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Hyperion Hub is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or its subsidiaries. We'll meet you next time at the Hyperion Hub.